How's it going, guys? Objector here, and today we're going to take a look at Overwatch's supporting monk, Zenyatta. He is a humble, peaceful monk who can be a DPS machine in the right hands. Because of this, he is usually my go-to support, especially on defense. While he is an offensive type support, he works really well when the enemy team is funneling into one area. For defense, he really is able to do a lot of damage as well as support the team with heals, and is probably my overall favorite support because of his versatility. So let's go ahead, get started, and see what makes him so great. First up is his weapon, which is his Orbs of Destruction. He has 20 of these at a time, and they fire at a rate of 3 per second, at 45 damage each, which means that his DPS is 135. As you have noticed, these aren't hit scan shots, so they do have travel time, but if you play with them enough, you will get used to the delay between shots and the travel time without too much trouble, and overall should have an easier time aiming than, say, Lucio's projectiles. His alternate fire charges up to release up to 5 projectiles at once. This is especially useful when peeking around a corner or when a Hanzo or Widowmaker on your team highlights enemies and you're able to predict them coming around a corner. Before we move on, his orbs don't drop in damage and they have a 2x headshot multiplier, so it's definitely worth going for those headshots if you can, especially on an enemy with an Orb of Discord on him, but we'll go over that in a bit. Next we'll talk about his Orb of Harmony, which is his main supportive ability. This attaches to a teammate and heals them for 30 health per second and will stay with them until they die, when Zenyatta dies, or when Zenyatta loses line of sight with them for 3 seconds. As one of the in-game tips says, you always want to have this on one of your allies, even if they're all at full health, and keep an eye out for nearby enemies with critical messages over them, and get an orb to them as soon as you can. His other supportive ability is the Orb of Discord, and this is what's going to allow Zenyatta to become a DPS machine. When this orb is attached to an enemy, they take 50% more damage from all sources. This will bump Zenyatta's DPS up to 202 or 404 if all shots are headshots. If you can line up a charge shot with an Orb of Discord on, you are going to melt them really quick. And as you've seen in this video, I became a pseudo sniper in a way by applying the Orb of Discord, staying back, and picking off the enemy. Now the Orb of Discord does have the same limitations as the Orb of Harmony, staying on an enemy until one of you dies or until you lose sight for 3 seconds. It also gives you sight on the enemy after they go around corners, which can help predict enemy movement and use your alternate fire. So if you're facing Zenyatta and he hits you with this, make sure that you take cover and get rid of it as quick as you can. Now in addition to the limitations I mentioned before, Tracer, Reaper, and Zarya can get rid of the orb with either Recall, Wraith Form, or Protective Barrier, so do be aware of that when you're playing them. And lastly, his ultimate Transcendence, or as my friends and I call it, Big Eyeball. This lasts 6 seconds and will make you invulnerable as well as heal your allies for 130 health per second. When using his ultimate, don't simply pop it at the beginning of a team fight, but rather let the team fight develop a little bit and then pop it to protect yourself as well as take full advantage of the heal for your teammates. Otherwise, you can use it to help counter enemy team's ultimates, as you see me doing here to protect the team from D.Va's ult. And I think also in this gameplay I did it to counter Genji's ult at one point. But also when you're pushing up, if you are using him on offense and you're looking to take the objective, that is a great time to pop his ultimate and help control that objective. Now that we know what he does, how are we going to make the most of him? As I mentioned before, I like taking him on the defensive side and letting the enemy team funnel into me. Putting his Orb of Harmony onto a tank or a Bastion is a great way to buff them up and make them harder to deal with, and then switching it to other teammates as they need it. Whether playing him on offense or defense, make sure you stay out of the line of sight and on the back lines, as he has one of the lowest health pools in the game. And if you do play him on offense, be aware that his healing isn't as effective as Lucio or Mercy's, and you really have to keep an eye on who needs your Orb of Harmony the most. This is why I prefer him on defense, where it's a little easier to stay back and keep it on more stationary allies until another teammate needs it. The reason I do this is because you don't want to be spending your time with the Orb of Harmony if you can help it. Zenyatta is a higher skill cap support because you have to effectively manage both his orbs, and where you want to put your main focus if you can is his Orb of Discourse. As you've seen in this gameplay, I'm able to take on high value targets such as Genji with the help of my Orb of Discourse. So the less you have to focus on your Orb of Harmony and the more you can focus on your Orb of Discord, the more effective you're going to be. One last thing to keep in mind is fast moving targets such as Tracer and Reaper are your biggest counters, as they can easily get rid of your Orb of Discord but also close the distance quickly and melt you up close. But Zenyatta is a great support in the right hands, and in short, if you can masterfully juggle your balls, then Zenyatta is the support for you. Anyway guys, that's all for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Overwatch guides. If you haven't seen my previous video on Widowmaker, click the link on the screen now. And until next time, this is Objector, signing off.